Most web browsers have some form of Vim movement extension. Typically, I'll think of things like Vim Vixen and Vimium. And they also have Vim input extensions as well, but the vast majority of these are Vim emulation. And Vim emulation is fine, but there's two problems that happen with it. One is you either get pure vanilla Vim, which isn't really that great to work with, or if there are extensions, it's going to be completely the dev's taste in extensions, and it's not going to work exactly the way you want it to work. However, this is where Firenvim comes in, because what Firenvim is going to do is run a full Neovim instance in the background and actually use that to do Vim input. Now, by doing this, this means you actually get to use your Vim config inside of your browser. So basically, any text box just becomes a Vim buffer, and I think this is actually a really, really cool idea. Now, some people are probably going to say, oh, but you really don't need to do that. You absolutely don't, but that doesn't stop it from being cool. Now, judging by the name Firenvim and the logo as well, I presume this originally started as a Firefox plugin, but I'm currently running it inside of Chromium, and I have tested it in Firefox, Chromium, and Brave, and for the most part, it works perfectly well in all three of them, with a few caveats for Brave. Now, because this is literally just a full instance of Neovim running in my browser, I don't think there's any point to go over things like key bindings because they will be exactly the same as what you would normally have if you run Neovim inside of your terminal. Now, I'm saying Neovim for a very good reason, and that's because regular Vim will not work. This specifically requires you using Neovim because of the differences between how they handle headless mode. Now, I did say this is your full Neovim config, so this doesn't just mean, the basic settings you've set inside of Vim script. It also means things like your theme. So right now we're seeing the VS Code Dark theme, which is objectively the best theme you can run for Vim. Fight me in the comments section. But it also means we can use our extensions as well. Now, for the most part, extensions don't really matter here. So things like, say, the FZF extension probably isn't going to be that useful, but there are some I can think of that might be. So things like the Vim movement extensions, or some of the ones that add color highlighting, and other little things like that might actually be useful, but probably 99% of Vim extensions you don't even want to run in here. And along with that, I can't confirm how well most plugins actually work. I presume the ones that just use built-in Vim features should be perfectly fine, but if they have any system dependencies, it might be a bit sketchy whether they actually work inside your browser. Now, once you've made your changes to the text box, let's say we want to go and delete this line right here and add in some extra text. All you need to do is just go and save and quit like you normally would, and the text will be saved to the regular text box. If you don't go and save it though, the text will not actually be saved. So we go and click off and click back into it. So let's say we, let's just say we delete everything, and then we just go and quit out. That hasn't actually been saved. And also, you can have multiple instances of Neovim open at the same time. So let's say we have this one here, and we want to go and open up one here as well. If we just go and click on that, all it's going to go and do is make this one unfocused, and this one will be the main focus now. If we go and click on this one again, this will just be the focus. So I don't know what the performance hit will be on a lower end system. On my system, being a fairly OP system, I haven't noticed really any performance hit, but it might be a problem on, say, like my older laptop, which is sort of dying as it's getting older. On the websites I've tried, this plugin does seem to work fairly well. As long as they don't have any like weird CSS, it should be fine. So if we go over to, say, my Brave browser and go into TweetDeck and try to post a tweet, as we can see, the box is spawned over to the left-hand side here. If I just go and full screen, unfull screen, it goes and fixes it. I'm not really sure what the deal is there. It does that every single time, but it only seems to do it on TweetDeck, so there must be some weird CSS going on here that's just putting the box in the wrong location. Now, in the middle of planning this video, there was a pretty major update, which actually addressed some of the problems I was going to have. One of those being, if the text box was resized, sometimes the text box would just kind of break and not really fully expand out to the entire section. Same with doing things like spawning windows that ended up taking up some of the screen. It does break a little bit if the window gets too small, but that's more of a problem with how web browsers handle things that get small rather than the plugin itself. Now, when I say there's some caveats with working with Brave, what I mean is that if you have your Brave shields enabled, basically the plugin doesn't work. So if we go and enable that and click on any of these boxes in here, you'll notice for like a fraction of a second there's a flash of Neovim, and then it just completely dies. That's the Brave shields killing it every single time. I think the reason for this is that Brave thinks it's some sort of like external malicious JavaScript and just tries to kill it as quickly as possible. I have tried this with things like uBlock Origin over in Chromium, and there is no issue whatsoever there, so if you're using some sort of other ad blocking, it's probably going to be fine. I haven't tested all of them, some of them might break it, but I know for certain that Brave doesn't like this. Now, there are a few key bindings you may want to configure specifically for the plugin, so to do that over in Firefox, what you do is go over to About:/Add-ons, and then click on this cog right here, and go to Manage Extension Shortcuts. Now, you can get to this menu through your, menu over here, but this is easier to do it. Anyway, Manage Extension Shortcuts, scroll down to when you see Firenvim, and as we can see, we have turned the currently focused element into a Neovim iframe, focus the input field that matches the currently focused iframe, focus the page, and then send these keys into Envim. And to configure your keys over in Brave and Chromium, it's done basically the same way. So over on that window, if you go to Chrome://extensions/shortcuts, that's going to take you to your extensions page, and Brave actually redirects you to the Brave version instead of the Chromium version, but both links work. And if we scroll down a bit, we'll see the Firenvim extensions, basically all the exact same ones, and none of them are actually bound by default. So you might want to go and bind, say, activate the extension, because there might be a place where you have text boxes that you don't really want to have Neovim windows in, and it's just easier to go and disable it like that. So if we go over to Chromium and do the same thing here, it's going to show us basically the same page, and we have Firenvim right here. Now, due to the way this plugin works, you will have to give it a lot of permissions, so you'll need to have it access your data for all websites, and this is necessary to be able to actually append elements to the DOM, exchange messages with programs other than the browser you're in, so this is so it can actually communicate with Neovim, and then access your browser tabs, and this is required in order to find out what the current tab is. So if you can accept those permissions, then feel free to use the plugin. Otherwise, yeah, there's nothing I can really do for you. Now, to actually get this working, it has a two-part installation. Firstly, you need to go and install the Vim plugin. So the way you do that, same way you'd install any sort of Vim plugin. If you use Vim plug, use this command, dayin this command, minpack this command, pathogen, vundo, and others. Go and install it like you normally would, and then afterwards, go and run this command right here so it can actually run the installation script. And then once that's done, you can go and install the browser extension that interacts with Neovim. And because it's a browser extension, it will automatically update. So if your version in your browser and in Neovim aren't in sync, it will still work for a while, but it will complain that they're not the exact same version. So make sure you just go and update the Neovim version as well, so that it's going to just keep working as it should. And one other thing is make sure that monospace fonts are actually working inside of your web browser. In the case of Linux, a lot of the time they're not really configured properly, and it's going to try to use a sans or a sans serif font, and you can technically do that. However, Vim is designed to be used inside of a terminal, and terminals are designed to be using monospace font. And if you don't use a monospace font, your cursor might be in a weird location. I've been using this plugin for 3 or so weeks. I planned the video a while ago and just forgot to record it. Honestly, I think this is one of those extensions that more people, especially people who really love Vim, just need to know about. And I have no idea how this isn't more popular. And before I go, I just want to say that 64.6% of my audience not subscribed. Now, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. But if you are enjoying the content, then that does help the channel out a lot, so please do that. And now I just want to thank my supporters. So a special thank you to Chris, Joachim, Donald, Michael, Andre, Nathan, David, Monster, Will, Brennan, Chico, Bento, Jamie, Joseph, Mitchell, Pididoo, Tony Tushar, and all my $2 supporters. I tried to make that musical and just made it take twice as long as it needed to. Anyway, if you want to go and support the channel, there'll be links to things in the description. I've got my podcast, Tech Over Tea, available basically anywhere. And this channel is available on Odyssey, Library, and BitChute if you're watching a platform that isn't YouTube. I knocked things on my table, I should probably clean it. That's pretty much everything for me, and I'm out.